Hi tribe, welcome back to my channel. You can see just from my face how excited I am. You can see, right? You can see it's actually coming from the inside. And today I have the most gorgeous guest, Gugulethu Mfuphi. You are a conversation strategist. You are a financial journalist. You are an award-winning broadcaster and a all-round numbers girl.
Thank you.
Gugu, thank you so much for being here and honoring the invite.
Thank you. Tell them I'm your girl too. Hey?
Yes.
You guys missed out on a great conversation before the recording here.
It's always such a great conversation when I'm with you. And I guess that's why you are the conversation strategist.
Oh, well, we try. Oh, we don't try. We actually do it. You're right. We need to stop saying that.
Yeah, no. And you do a very good job at it.
Thank you.
You do a very good job at it. So I'm sure you have seen her before. She is on Kaya.
Yes, ma'am.
Kaya Biz. She has been on CNBC. If you are looking at investment conferences, she probably is the one doing the conversation there.
Yep.
So you are a big deal, Gugu.
Thank you.
You are a big deal. Please never ever just make like, nah. No, you are a big deal.
I'm a big deal, as you heard.
There we go. There we go.
She's and I'm really lucky because it's a labor of love. Yes. It really is. I've been very blessed to actually have this, culminate as a blessing and both in occupation. So, yeah, I'm highly appreciative of it.
And I remember when we were kind of also starting
Girl.
I remember we were at some hotel in Rosebank, and I was still doing podcasts then. And again, I had never really met her, but she was like, yeah, sure, let's do a podcast. And we really just grown our friendship since then.
I remember we were at a hotel. Yes, it was the Furs in Rosebank.
Yes.
I was about to go travel to Bali. And I'd actually just gone to the store to get a couple of groceries to travel. Then we started talking about, do you spend money off the limit, off a cuff, actually.
Yeah.
But you're right, actually. That's a good, 5 years ago?
4 or 5 years ago.
Look at us now.
Look at us now.
We clean up nice, I think.
Yay. No, thank you so much, Goog. So today the topic is how to manage your money as a freelancer, because money is a big deal also. You do not get to look this good without spending some ching-ching. Yes, it's a natural beauty, but I mean, the clothes, the hair, the makeup, all of that costs money. And how do you manage all of that as a freelancer? So that is our topic today. Before we get into the topic though, I have 6 questions for you, Gugu, just so people can get to know you a bit better in a fun way. All right. So what was
the
your
pressure?
Why does everyone?
Worse.
Why does everyone say that every time I say?
So my disclaimer, Mapalo, is that also for me it's very different, right? I'm usually the person asking the questions.
Yes,
so and Mapalo would tell you. We literally spoke this morning. I was like, girl. I don't even know what you're asking.
I did it intentionally with her because I know she's great at what she does. I did intentionally. I didn't send you questions because I was like, we are going to have a conversation as we normally would. So what was your first big purchase?
Ooh. Like big?
Yeah. Something that you felt was a big purchase.
Oh, property.
See?
For sure.
Property owners, girl, guys.
Yeah.
It's a big one.
Yeah. It was an interesting journey. And what was even more fulfilling was actually, accomplishing and actually making the final purchase where you're like, actually, let me settle this thing.
Yeah.
And then you go through the whole process of actually collecting the title deed and the likes. It actually feels like, okay.
Wow.
This is grown folk stuff. Like,
this is big girl stuff.
Yeah. So that's probably like the biggest purchase I've made.
Yeah. Oh, no. Fantastic. All right. So what did you do with your first paycheck? Do you remember?
So my proper first real paycheck, right? Because all the other paychecks really were like quite small. I once did like a random promotions thing. I once did a random waitressing thing that didn't last long. And then I worked at campus radio where we worked for free. And then my first job was actually at a commercial radio station. I probably earned about 50 Rand an hour. I didn't really have a lot of expenses other than like my cell phone contract at the time, and spending it on myself. But it wasn't as though I actually made a huge purchase. But I did do what most Black people do in their families, is actually give a portion back to your parents to be like, yo, thank you. Here's a little buffer.
Appreciation.
Exactly. It's not much, but yeah, that's probably like a highlight that stands out in my mind.
That's awesome. All right. So what would you say is your dumbest purchase to date? or a financial decision, you're like, I would have been better off without making that decision.
So it wasn't necessarily a purchase, but there was a time when I was still staying at home before I'd moved out, managed to accumulate a lot of savings. And I can't tell you what exactly I spent it on, but I know it was a lot of experiences, going out, maybe a holiday
Living your
here or
life.
there. I was literally living my life. And I look back, and in a couple of months' time, I was like, actually, this was a sizable sum and like significant amount of money. And I sat back and I was like,
where did it go?
yeah, I could have allocated more of this to, something more tangible. But I guess we live and we learn.
No,
so.
absolutely. And I think for me, it reminds me of my own, I could say, dumb decision, although it wasn't like getting into debt. But, my phone is ringing. No, husband, no. Get away.
We'll edit that part out of the interview. Welcome.
Yes. Kids, men, husbands, all of that.
But this is important, Mapalo, for people to actually see that you're a full person, right?
No, absolutely.
Because I think sometimes people, like how I'm feeling right now, like, people are going to see the real me, which is fine in this circle.
And I think absolutely for me, that's what I've always tried to show.
Yeah.
I mean, you have seen my character on this channel. People who watch this channel a lot,
for sure.
they know. I will
You're a
say, ma'am, sir, no.
Exactly.
Right? Even with my kids, I say, you know what, I'll never work if I just didn't continue. I mean, this is real life. Okay. So I remember my dumbest financial decision. I remember when I started making quite a bit of money. When you are moving up and you feel like, you had quite a lot of disposable income. At the end of the year, when I reconciled, I was like, hey, bo, where did all this money go?
And that's the sad part when it's like, you can't even, some incidences you can't even remember. You see it on the bank statement and you're like...
Yeah. Just like Pam did at the time.
Yeah. Shout out to Pam.
She went through her bank statement for the first time in a very long time. She was shook. She was like, there's no way I've made this money. I was like, yep. So it happens to the best of us. What has been your best financial decision so far?
I think investing, starting early with investing. And actually my foray into investing actually started off because of a colleague of mine.
Yeah.
I was working at a company called MoneyWeb at the time. And we do a lot of interviews with companies like Satrix, ETFSA, really that actually speak about passive investment opportunities. And a colleague of mine, Dominique Sekwatle, amazing lady.
Hi, Dominique.
Yes. She said to me, don't you have a Satrix account? Don't you have an investment, in a Satrix top 40? Because you're talking about all these investments, but you're not doing anything tangible with it. And she literally sat me down with my ID, all the FICA documentations, and helped me open up an account. So that was probably because of what I was exposed to as that being like my first real job, especially talking about investments and the likes. Then I guess the journey started off from there, actually being more
and you realize that it's not that scary as well.
Exactly. And being more conscious and intentional about it.
Don't you just love people come into your life and just expose you to new things?
Oh, for sure. That's very necessary. And I think it's an important quality to have as you assess the people that are in your life, Mapalo, from friends, partners, professional capacity. You really just want to be on a journey where either, ultimately looking for a symbiotic partnership, right? Even in
where
business.
it goes both ways.
Exactly. But folks who are able to open up your eyes and say, girl, here's another way, here's another path, here's something new. That's always encouraging.
Oh, Dominique, shout out to you. We love you. All right. What would you tell your younger self about money?
Don't be scared of it. I think a lot of us first interact with money from a place of lack.
Yeah.
And I can definitely think, a lot of us grew up in households where we'll be told that, money doesn't grow on trees, or where you are encouraged to be a little bit more conservative in terms of your spending. But because we always approach it from a place of lack, I think sometimes we're so scared that, I want more of it and I want plenty of it. But once you accumulate it, or in the process of accumulating it, we get lost in not appreciating what it can do for you. Yeah. And then you almost become scared of it, Hence you have shows like, what is it? I blew it. So there's always this conception as well that even children who are born into wealthy families, by the third generation, it's gone. So I think, just having a very different mindset about money, that it's really an enabler to allow you to live your best life, and not something that you should be fearful of having too much of or too little of.
And I think, for me, you're talking about something that I have not been able to articulate in this past couple of months. That also there's certain levels as you climb up the income ladder, if I can call it that, that at some point it's a little bit scary. I remember one of the things I have to deal with SARS a lot now. I have to deal with accountants a lot now.
Yeah.
And Pam knows I'm always I'm like, why the hell do I have to deal with these people? You know? And I've literally, there was a point where I've just been scared to even spend. You have money, but now I'm just like, now I have to always go back to SARS. I have to, and I'm just like,
Got you. That's an interesting.
Things have levels,
right? No, they do have levels, and I think that's why those who are super creative with accounting, i.e., fraud, know how to
Marcus
work exactly know how to work their way around it. But you actually mentioned something so valid, is that actually there's a lot more to it. You know, there's a lot more responsibility and roles.
Yes, that responsibility part.
Exactly.
I'm like, when I started this thing, it was just fun making money, putting it away in savings, investments. Now you have to deal with a partner who's SARS. I'm like, what the hell?
But I like that you're talking about that, because that actually does tie into this topic today.
Yes,
about,
managing your money as a freelancer.
Because if you're going to stay a freelancer, then you're not going to build a sustainable level of wealth. At some point, you actually need to shift and formalize. Your work
and you have to put
structures.
systems in place, which
I'm going speak to compliance.
I'm going through a lot.
I
am going through a lot. I'm going through a lot. Okay, so what is the one thing you do not compromise on?
Ooh.
You can be frugal, you can be very smart with your money, but what is it that you say, you know what, with this one, no, it's okay. I'm willing to spend what I need to spend.
Oh my gosh. It almost sounds complex, but it's really going back to the basics.
Yeah.
Where I sleep, so my home comforts, and what I eat.
Yes.
I think I can be frugal on a lot of things, but because I'm aware that this needs to be maintained and taken care of as a individual, and also just for me to function and to be productive. It's funny, my mother always used to say to me, the first time you move out of home or anywhere really that's been a place of comfort, you buy a bread and you buy a fridge. Yeah. Because you need somewhere to sleep, and it needs to be comfortable to give you enough sleep.
Absolutely.
So take care of those comforts, and then eat well. Because you need your mind and your body to function, and you need to be healthy. So
that's very important.
Yeah, I think those are things that I probably don't necessarily compromise on. So yeah, those are taken care of, I think.
Okay, awesome. Now let us get into the conversation of being freelancer, working for yourself, being a business yourself. How did you get here? Give us a bit of background in terms of where you started, because I think a lot of the times when people see you, Gugu, you're on Kaya Biz, you're on all the stages. How did you get here?
It's been a journey, right? And a very interesting and exciting one too. And to tell you the truth, Mabalo, I'm a person who believes in vision boards and journaling and writing what you like and what it is that you want to accomplish. But I don't think, I've always known what it is that I want to do. I've never really been clear on the plan as to how to get there. But life has an interesting way of working things out. But as you say, I started off as a freelancer, as many individuals actually do within the space that we work in, primarily because I tend to plug and play into different spaces in different capacities. But initially when my journey started, I was a full-time employee of a TV broadcasting company, CNBC Africa at the time. And my boss at the time, Bronwyn Nielsen, actually invited me, together with another colleague of mine, Nozipo Shabalala, would actually have us participate in external events for clients at the time, who would either sponsor or advertise on the show, or who would actually take an interest in working with us because we had the knowledge and the capacity to not only conduct conversations and interviews, but to also host a crowd. And also you had the knowledge, right, of the industry or the space that you actually had to talk about and engage with as a peer. And that essentially afforded me the opportunity to become a freelancer. So you start making a little extra money on the side.
It's always like that.
Right? You take on first few gigs. The pricing model might be off because you don't know what you're doing.
Completely off.
And then over time, you realize that, again, SARS will politely remind you that, hold on, girl. This bank account of yours is seeing increased activity. It's great for you in your lifestyle, but, you know, render to Caesar what is due to Caesar, as the former finance minister would often say. And that's why I think for a lot of us who are within these careers that we've started to create, even, individuals who are here as content creators, yourself, as a financial coach, we are fortunate enough to essentially create our own careers. And typically it does mean that you start off as a freelancer. So I, like many people, started off again like a slasher, freelancer, wearing multiple hats. But at some point I had to formalize this. And that's because you realize that in order for you to grow and for for you to do so successfully and to have a competitive advantage to essentially build a business, really, even though it starts off as a sole proprietor, that you need to formalize your structures and your systems in place. So that essentially led to the registration of a business, following through with all the necessary obligations of tax, separate business account, BE certificate. Paying yourself. Let's talk about that.
How difficult is that?
Because, mapalo. Let me tell you, don't have your business bank account and your personal account too closely linked, because sometimes those transfers become very easy and liberal.
Blurry line,
right?
Yeah.
And sometimes a lot of people still tend to struggle with it. But when it comes to formalizing your business and moving away from the freelancer system, not only does it make it easier for you to manage your stream flow and your business, but it also makes you more competitive in the market. If you think about this, Mapala, and you would have known, you did a lot of videos on this during the pandemic, that a lot of individuals and businesses who actually didn't benefit or qualify for bank holidays or additional grants and payment systems are essentially people who didn't comply or have proper structures in place, and, you know, a tax certificate and, you know, the likes that are required. So all of that essentially just makes it easier for you to participate in the ecosystem of being a business. You know, you can't really do work with government as a freelancer forever. At some point, you need to be on their CSD program, which requires you as well to have, you know, certain fulfillments required in that particular slot. And even coming back to SARS, that's also where it becomes very important to have a process to pay yourself first, because another trap freelancers fall into is that you see a lot of excess cash. You tell yourself, I can buy things cash. So you do the big purchases, right? Whether it's a car or even, you know, whatever household items you might need, and you pay for them cash. And you forget that something like credit is available for you to use to make even bigger purchases, whether it's a loan for your business, whether it's purchasing a car or a house, right?
And I think it's such a big thing when you work for yourself, when you are an entrepreneur, business owner, or freelancer. One thing you forget is if you do want to make those big purchases, a car, house, and you want to have access to financing, the bank is going to say, you might have the money, but we need to see your credit history.
Exactly. And that's what actually catches a lot of people off guard, especially, you know, those who just keep on with the model of freelancing. And that's why, again, this is the beauty about understanding how the world of financial services works, is that you need to also understand that credit can be used to your benefit. You know, it's literally an opportunity for you to leverage. But that, again, requires the paperwork, because once you can manage the revenue streams for the business, you're able to pay yourself consistently.
Because that's what they want to see. Consistency. That there's money coming into your personal account. Because what often happens, people have tons of money on the business account and have very little going through on a consistent basis. Then they get there, they're like, you are two separate entities.
Precisely. And that's the thing, then you'll always live chasing, right, for the big check to actually make the big purchases. Whereas if you pay yourself consistently, have a pay slip that's in order, monitor your own, you know, personal spending. And it's important, as you say, to separate yourself from the business. You know, the business is the business. It needs to take care of business issues and business things, not Friday drinks with the girls or the guys, or paying for holidays. And these are all traps that we all know we fall into, right? And because it's easy, it's accessible.
But especially in the beginning, when you are just still thinking as a freelancer, that trap is wide. It's really wide. And I know personally, as a person who talks about finance, it took me a while, and also for accountants to slap me on the face and say, hey. And I think it leads me nicely into the next question. Do you believe in paying for services? So if you have an accountant, you have someone who can look at contracts, especially if you are getting into a big contract. I know a lot of people shy away from paying these individuals, but I found that they make such great business partners, if you can even call them that.
Oh, for sure. Huge. And I think that's the point, Mapalo. One needs to move away from thinking of themselves as a freelancer to a business. You know, yes, you might be a sole proprietor still, which actually requires you to wake up and you to show up and actually do the work. But once you start putting those systems in place and actually speaking to consultants and individuals who are professionals in their sphere, they actually help you navigate it so much more seamlessly. And yes, it might pain you sometimes to pay people from your pocket, because you're like, hey, this money is mine, you know. But it also makes you appreciate the discipline that's required to execute your work. It also makes you appreciate the value you bring to the table. Because, Mapalo, think about it, you know, we get our hair done, and these are like simple basics, right? and the reason why we speak to professionals, I mean, I have bad eyesight. I wouldn't go to a dentist to help me out with my eyes because they're not qualified for that. And that also, shows me the value that an ophthalmologist and optometrist actually brings into my life. The same way when you then work with a client and you say, hold on, this is the value I'm bringing onto the table because of these legal considerations, these financial considerations, and
skill and experience
that I'm bringing to the table.
Yeah.
That's actually, in the politest of ways, what bumps the cheese up. To show them that they're actually working with an individual who is taking their work that seriously, not just someone who's running from pillar to post trying to bag the next gig. Because then you're consistently going to be doing this, living in that rat race instead of building something that's sustainable for you as an entity.
So how did you finally decide, you know what, I want to do this on my own? So from CNBC, where you were employed, and actually it's a very scary thing to do. Say, I'm going to take the jump, I'm going to go at this on my own. And I mean, what guts must you have to believe that I will sustain myself outside of a formal structure?
It is. And if I'm honest with you, I think it's an evolution that continues to take place, right? Because whenever you feel like you've reached one level of excellence, you always want to reach the next. And that in itself,
when does it end?
I don't think it does.
It doesn't. I know.
I don't think it does. But for me, and I was really fortunate, Mapalo, because I had a lot of people around me at the time who had either walked this journey before me, or who were, part of the process and actually made it easier to navigate to a certain extent. As I mentioned, I was still a full-time employee when I started working, so I was, very much a side hustler, perhaps, and then you recognize that, hold on, there's a solid income stream here. That sometimes is even better than the income stream that you're getting from the real job. And that's when you decide, hold on, there's something that I actually need to work on here. And that was the beginning of the process of actually formalizing the structure. What also really helped Mapalo as a form of encouragement is the companies that I actually was employed to then became my clients, if that makes sense, where then they are calling you in your capacity as someone that they've worked with and as a consultant to say, hold on, we need you to come in, in this particular capacity, whether it's emceeing or moderating or assisting us with the comm strategy, or consulting on a certain project. This is how we're going to have you on board. So if I'm honest with you, it's almost as though you kind of build the plane as you're flying it. And if I speak to a lot of people who are in my similar space, a lot of us actually learned that way. We'd actually call each other and say, what's on your rate card? What are you charging for this particular fee?
That's a big one. Remember we even discussed that the last time we met. And she was like, no, girl, this needs to go up.
Exactly. And because we're all within the circle and process together, if you're fortunate enough to find yourself in a safe space and with people that you're able to, adequately communicate with and express yourself and your concerns with, then you're able to call each other up and say, hold on, my accountant said this treatment needs to be that way. Is that right?
Make sense?
Exactly. So and I guess the journey continues to evolve, right? Because
you continue to learn so much.
Right.
But I love one of the things you said, and I made a mental note of it, that in the beginning your rates are really crappy.
No.
But I guess, and this is what I've always said,
let's be honest.
You will pay the school fees.
And you need to. I recall you've said this in a previous conversation as well, that you will pay school fees. And that's something that you need to accept, right? With life in general. That anything new that you do, you will
I
actually
remember
have to pay.
this one massive company. Yay! Google. If I tell you how much I got paid for that.
You charge them R2 and your
Literally,
work
the work was worth 200,000. I swear.
Mapalo.
I swear. But you know what?
But we all live and we learn, right?
We live and we learn.
And I think that's also something that people need to be cautioned about, that, we can laugh about it now because you and I have a better understanding of what it is we do, what we bring to the table, the rates and fees that we can charge, the caliber of clients that we engage with, and you're aware of their budgets, you're aware of their strategy, and the value you bring into the table. But I think for a lot of people, even as basic as individuals who are photographers or content creators or whatever space it is that you're working in, even if it happens to be, within financial services, the difficulty is that our space is unregulated. It's unregulated. It's not monitored. Some people literally just charge at a thumbs up. And others,
And I've actually, I think I was telling you this as well, that there was a client we were working with and someone who had previously...
I remember that conversation.
And I said, how much did they charge this client? We were working on the same damn thing. And I said, you know what? That's the problem. It's unregulated. And especially if you are kind of new into the space and
You'll take anything, right?
You will
Because
take
you're also fighting for
anything.
exposure. You also want to be seen,
Yeah.
but you
Yeah.
also don't want to run the risk of eroding your value, Mapalo. And I think the beauty of, and I,
Yeah.
some people might
Yeah.
not like me for this, but I think it's very
But it's
important.
the
You
truth.
need to find your space. And literally people say stay in your lane. I don't even think it's about staying in your lane, but
It's not.
become an industry expert on a subject matter that you are capable of covering, that you have the skills and ability to cover, and that you yourself can show up as a leader in. And I say this, it's a simple example, but a lot of times, sometimes people ask me, oh, can you please MC my wedding? Can you please MC a beauty pageant? And I'm like,
And you're
girl,
like,
I can
no.
MC anything, but
But
that
not
is
the wedding,
not my
not
field of
yet.
interest,
Yeah.
nor is it my field of expertise, right?
Yes.
Because it's what I choose not to cover, and I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah.
Hence, it's easy to say,
And I think
I'll decline the offer.
It really boils down to knowing yourself.
Thank you.
Right?
And knowing what
knowing yourself, knowing the value that you bring, knowing the skill set that you do
Exactly.
have,
Exactly.
and what you want to be known for.
Exactly. So
What
if
do
you
I
ever
want
see
to
me
be?
trying to be like Pam, trying on a new wig and telling you I know how to lay edges best,
I
girl,
will call you.
just know that it's
I
not
will
me.
call you and say, yay, what is going on?
Right? Because I'm not an expert in that, but
Yeah.
Pam is, and she can lead the way in. And I think that's so
Yes.
important for all of us
Yeah.
within our different pockets of creating these new industries and spaces that we're in to capitalize on being an industry leader in what it is that you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a lot to say about that. I think I'm just going
You
to
and I
stop
know-
right
yeah, we
there.
know.
I think there's a conversation with the two of us.
Off air.
Off air. All right, so now you've been doing what you've been doing.
Mm-hmm.
You've become excellent in what you do, right? Would you ever consider going back to corporate? What would be the price if I were to come to you, give it to you? What would that be that would compel you to go back to corporate? If there is anything that can compel you to go back to corporate.
As you said that, I think I laughed and I could see Pam also smiling in the background.
Yeah.
Only because, Mapalo, I think I've really been fortunate, and I don't mean this in any way of trying to be brash or harsh or even arrogant. I am fully appreciative of the career path that I've actually been able to journey and to walk on. As I say, it's a journey that almost happened by mistake because I sidestepped into media and took an interest in it and decided, well, instead of my articles, let me just do this for a year. And the year is still continuing now. But for me to move into corporate, I've thought about this because just even, before this conversation, we're joking about where do you want to be when you're 40? And I was like, girl,
not here.
not here.
Not here.
Could I be in corporate? What would compel me to join a corporate full-time, perhaps because I work with corporates on a day-to-day basis, and I really appreciate the flexibility that I have with working with them. But I think for me, it would really have to be work that, number one, still speaks to the impact and the purpose that I want to serve in society. And with the space that I've been in, a lot of it definitely focuses on business and investments, but, that's really just the top tier of it. The beauty is that this pillar of business, investment, and economics spreads into so many far-reaching aspects, youth development, how it speaks to sustainable, the goals and ESG and the likes, how it actually speaks to
Don't
the
talk about
various
ESG
sectors.
because I have my own thoughts on ESG.
I can imagine. So would I work for corporate? Not about the money, but more about the purpose and the flexibility that might be incorporated with it. And I definitely want to play.
Do you
a
think
role
it would
within
come with any
corporate.
flexibility though?
I think so. If I'm more at a strategic level,
Okay.
and that would be very important for me, as someone who has the ability and the flexibility to, in the job that I do, it's really like being in a real life business school.
Yeah.
Because every company you analyze for results or operational updates is really, another case study. And I think
You are literally doing it in a life MBA.
I appreciate that. Let's put that on my CV.
There we go. There we go.
So I would think it even if it doesn't come with as much flexibility as what I'm enjoying now, definitely impact that needs to be purposeful and at a strategic level that allows me to actually provide the industry insight and knowledge that I have. And that I've witnessed and gained over the years in my experience through financial journalism.
Yeah. So I think all in all, just let the journey unfold.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, guys, Mapalo's being deep. Now, this is the off-air Mapalo you guys don't know about. She's the big sister who's always advising me like, nah, Googs, pray about it, sis.
Yeah, pray about it. Put yourself out there. You
Yeah.
are the best. Believe in yourself.
Yeah.
All of those things.
Thank you.
Because I see them, man. Like, if you know Gugu, man. And Pam has this sentence. If you only saw if you only saw you the way I see you,
Oh man.
you would really just fly.
Not funny.
Anyway, let's not cry on camera.
But we're messing up this makeup that we did
Very
just for
beautiful
Mapalo
makeup.
today.
No, she looks dressed to the nines.
Thank you.
So, what are some of the financial implications you had to consider before jumping? But I think you've briefly mentioned it, that, it was kind of leading up to that in any case. But what were some of the things that perhaps worried you before making the jump? Because we all have those worries.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And it's a very valid point that you mentioned. And anyone who has been in our space will know that there are times when it's booming. We were just talking about it right now. Like, November, great month. Hey, meeting the targets and more. Exceedingly. But there are also times of the year when it gets incredibly quiet. December, typically many media companies are dead. There's no corporate events. Moving into Jan as well. And of course, April, right? Because it's littered with public holidays and people tend to go away. So number one, those were one of the considerations. But I must tell you that I was also very fortunate because as I was navigating the space, there were a number of peers and players in the industry as well, like Nozipo, Shabalala,
making your
like
way
yourself. Exactly.
Yeah.
Even Bronwyn Nielsen, my former boss, individuals who made you aware that, hold on, this is still a viable option for you to navigate, but just be aware of these particular pitfalls. So that was definitely like a major consideration that, okay, well, what do I do on the quiet months when you might be tempted to actually just say, you know what, I'll swipe the business card for everything, including my groceries. And that's not a viable or sustainable manner either. So you do need to structure
your cash flow in such a way that makes
and
sense.
What's sad, Mapalo, is that, you and I, and we talk about this all the time, right? Because we work with these financial services agencies and it's budget. And unfortunately, it goes back to the boring admin that you don't want to do, that you'd happily pass on to someone else. But those are some of the considerations that you just need to give yourself time to sit down, do the boring admin, get a reality snapshot of your life and your finances, and then build up from there. But for me, it was definitely the quiet times, like, whoa, what if I'm not making as much money as I could?
And
but if you're paying yourself a salary,
you know that what you should be looking out for, and just cash flow. That cash flow management is such a tricky thing.
Definitely. So the benefit as well, I guess, for me has been the space that I work in. A lot of people don't know this, but I have an accounting degree. Not my favorite thing, though, if I'm honest. I'm glad I'm not doing any audits instead of being where I am. Right? Yeah. But those are just some of the disciplines that you actually learn. And for some of us, I think you're lucky enough to learn them a lot quicker and along the way. Because at the time when I was making this transition, it was actually around the time that I just bought a property, just made a few other big, ticket purchases and items. And you become an adult to actually figure out, okay, well, hold on, yes, you might have some options in terms of alternatives if things don't work out, but first prize is to make it work, right? So you have to put in the grind and the work and take in those considerations to say, hold on, these are the principles I'm going to stick by to actually make this thing work. So it did mean coming with a lot of sacrifices. I did have to hold off,
I love that.
buying a car. If anyone sees my car, you would know that it's quite old, but it's still sufficient for me.
It works.
Exactly.
It works.
So it comes with, what do you call it?
Give and take, opportunity cost.
Exactly.
This one, that one. And I love what you're saying, because I think oftentimes people forget that it takes a lot of sacrifice, right, to make this choice over that choice. I think also that distortion from social media where we see people, but you don't realize those very same people have to make similar choices like everyone else.
Exactly.
Do I buy this? Do I forgo this? What will this mean? What is the return on investment on this one?
And just a moment ago, we were talking about studying, right? And people see you study and do particular courses and they're not sure about the background behind it, as to who's funding it or how you're funding it. And you're very right. I think we often take for granted that there are some sacrifices that we need to make in order to reach our goals. And because we don't ask, or because we are very quick to make assumptions, we walk away with our own understanding of it, which isn't always very accurate.
One of the things I always say to Pam, even looking at the price of something, sometimes you'd be like, oh no, I'm sure it's expensive. I said, who did you ask?
Right?
How do you know that it is expensive?
And expensive is relative.
It's relative, right?
Guys.
But also just the exposure to know that how much it is, so that your mind can sort of comprehend and know where to begin. But now you've completely closed off your mind. You have not asked the question, actually, how much does this thing cost? So even if it's outside of your price range, but you know what it costs,
right?
Then you can start taking actions to move in that direction. And we even mentioned earlier about sacrifice, that sometimes we complain that, oh goodness, it's going to take me 2 years to complete this postgrad. 2 years will pass either way.
Exactly. Whether you've done it or not.
Whether you've done it or not, the 2 years is going to go by. So don't limit yourself by time. Don't limit yourself by not asking questions. Just know and just say, you know what, I'm going to do this.
Right? I think you're very right. A lot of the times we, I think it's this life thing, Mapalo, where we try to hold ourselves, not even to particular standards, but to particular accomplishments by a particular age. And you're right, social media has exacerbated a lot of those pressures. And I think psychologically, it really just speaks to, how everybody does want to advance their level of development. But I guess in the world that we live in, it's always boils down to a sense of comparison. And if Mapalo has this, why can't I have that? And why is it not happening?
The sacrifices that Google had to put up with to get to that point. And I say this all the time, even with my family. Pam knows this, that I can never ever compare myself with anyone, or I actually do not desire anybody else's life, because I say, yay, there's struggles.
That is such a mature perspective,
No. I look at you, I can love the car, but even Pam, I know, I and I said this to her, I'm like, you know the problem is, you know what the problem is? People think they love people. I do not, I can never say, if I don't know you, I can never say, oh my gosh, I love her. What do you love about that person, guys? What do you love? What I can say is, geez, man, I've seen that the work ethic, they're very consistent in this area. That's what I can admire. But I don't say I love celebrities, people on social media. What do you love? That person is as much of a human being as I am, with my own struggles. So I cannot want you or what you have, because I can bet you my 2 cents that person has struggles as well.
Exactly. And struggles that you might not be able to carry.
No, I don't want to carry them. Let me deal with my own. Mine life is messy enough already. Let me deal with mine.
Oh, man.
No, let me deal with mine.
I love it.
All right, let's get back to money and freelancing and creating a business. Let's talk about invoicing. There's a lot lately also on social media about people calling out.
Did you see those posts? Guys, why are we consuming on credit?
So, hypo.
Champagne.
Jwala on credit. Kaskoloto. Guys. No. You must, and I just think some of those things, it's such where your self-esteem is really not at work.
Right.
Your self-esteem is so low that you want to be seen a certain way. On Jwala on credit.
But I didn't know it was possible, actually. We were talking about it with Pam. I was like, I didn't even know. You could walk into a club and be like, yo.
On credit, on tab. Jeff.
Right?
Hypo, guys. No.
But you're very right. It does speak to a psychological setting that we have. And I think it's just that consumption culture again. And, it's in books that are titled the world over that, unfortunately, especially perhaps as Black South African consumers and Black African consumers the world over, that we are still stuck in this rat race of having to have things and show things and consume things to highlight our progress. Yes. And it's not necessarily unique as well to this particular racial group, but if you go back to a few academic studies, they even highlight how it has impacted other racial groups at a particular time where they find and get to experience economic empowerment. And I'm one of those, Mapalo. I am definitely one of those who says, I like a nice life. I love soft life.
Yes.
I don't want any problems.
All of it.
All of it. But do things, again, it just goes back to, as you said, walk your path. Don't compare. Do it at your own pace. And I think there's some huge lessons to learn with that. That I think we take for granted, especially when it does come to, this consumption lifestyle. And again, knowing that other things have just been exacerbated in terms of pressure by social media and this ongoing level of comparison that, look, if Mapalo was at this particular club on a Thursday, I'm going to be there on Friday.
And I'm going to buy more bottles.
And it's, do you for you guys. I think and subconsciously, I think we all know this, right?
Yes.
But
no, we do.
Why we
absolutely do. We absolutely
for the
do.
pressure, is beyond me. But invoicing.
So...
So the beauty about invoicing, everybody loves to actually, when you fill and complete your invoice and this is good money.
Yeah.
And the payment's going to come through. I shouldn't be saying this just in case people try and put a hit out for me here and be like, this girl.
Ooh, she's moneyed. No. It's enough to sustain her life.
And then some. I'm teasing. But number one, when it comes to invoicing as a freelancer, get your paperwork again in order. You know, there are many templates available, and I think that's also one of the first blunders that I made. Like, okay, invoicing, you know, how do you fill it in? But make sure that it does comply with all the necessary accounting stuff, just to make sure
And
that
your
it is.
terms and conditions, very important.
Oh, that's very important. And again, this also underscores the importance, Mapalo, of actually formalizing your structure, right? Because as a freelancer, you know, when you start, you know, you'll be the one, you know, making the bookings. And this is actually testament to our growth, because remember when we first had our first podcast recording, it was probably all coordinated over WhatsApp. Hey girl, hey girl,
hey boo.
Cool. This is the time. Thanks, boo. You know?
Literally.
And today
now,
we've got colleagues and team members and
yes,
assistants who are helping us out in the background to actually, you know, manage these
Amen.
processes. So
Amen.
it speaks to that level of growth.
Sure.
So again, coming back to the growth of your business, when it comes to invoicing, the last thing you want is to have terms and conditions that are not expressed, and then your invoices get delayed.
Yeah.
And also, your invoice also helps the client take you seriously. So if it's going into a personal bank account, or you are calling client to say, oh, why don't you just e-wallet me the money? Don't do that, guys. It just makes it unprofessional to work with you. Also a bit of a pain. And also understand that different clients have different payment conditions, right? And that also speaks to invoicing and having the necessary contracts and other paperworks in place. But I've also found the major schlep is when you have to chase an invoice.
Oh my God.
There's nothing worse.
Yo,
Look at Pam's like,
Pam in the background is like,
there's nothing worse than you being the individual.
after having done the work and you have delivered excellently.
But you see, when you have processes in place and there's someone else to do that fighting for you from the get-go, then it becomes
sometimes
an easier process
I
to
take it up
manage.
myself, because
And how do you manage that? See, I've got some, because I can be very diplomatic and polite.
you see, that's the problem.
So the person
I'm
like
not.
Nasia helping me out now. Nasia is a beast, man. She'll
yeah.
make sure
Me and Nasia, same here.
Really?
She sometimes is like, but I said, no. I do not ever want to talk to these people again, and this is the last time.
Exactly.
And I will express it
Really?
in a very formal way, but you can hear my tone.
And not to damage the relationship.
Not to damage the
relationship. And that's why,
relationship.
again, processes
Yeah.
are
And
important,
but sometimes
right?
she even has to say, just
Breathe.
let's send it after an hour.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, Pam and I are on the same
Yeah.
wavelength.
She's
We're like overly
cracking herself.
diplomatic.
No.
But
There's a point in
ma-
time where the
this-
diplomacy has to end, because
And
you
it
know, one thing I
does.
spoke to Maya about this, because I was getting very frustrated over a certain invoice, right? And
How long was it overdue by?
was it 3 months almost?
3.
3 or 4. Imagine.
And that wasn't expressed beforehand.
No, they were supposed to pay within a month. And normally now I accept 50% upfront, then when 50% when the work is completed. But sometimes, you know, it doesn't always work like that. And there are clients I know that even if they don't do the 50% immediately, I
They'll
know for
settle.
sure that immediately as they are able to, it will be settled. They won't even wait for 30 days. So I do have consistent clients that I know I can trust and I don't have to fight with. I phoned Maya out of sheer frustration.
Maya Fisher French.
Maya Fisher French, by the way. And I said to her, Maya, and she was complaining about something similar and saying, especially 2022, it's been very tricky with invoices with some companies. So in any case, she gave me an example that she worked with someone else, a freelancer or business owner, and it was a guy. And he says, I will not deliver anything if you don't pay me. And what we do, we are forever modest. Hi, can I please have feedback on the invoice? The guy said, I will not deliver until you pay me, and you are going to pay me in full, because I don't want to deal with you going further. Did they not hire the same guy for the following year? They did. But I always feel like there's a fine line between you being a woman, because if you talk like that, you're going to be seen as difficult, you are arrogant, and you know, you've gotten too big for your pants.
Oh, for sure. That happens. And I think you're raising such a valid point here, Mapalo, that again, these are typically conversations we would have,
you would have.
know, on the sidelines. We're like,
Yeah.
this can, because it's happened to me as well, you know, with
Yes,
speaking agencies, with corporate clients as well. And I think, number one, this underscores the importance of taking yourself professionally.
Yeah.
And for that guy to actually say, I'm not going to
No,
deliver
I
until
said
you've
I
actually
will not
paid.
do one more thing.
Right?
And you're not going to pay me 50%, you're going to pay me the full amount.
Exactly.
Because I don't want to deal with you. Imagine.
Exactly. And I think that's very necessary, especially
Then
within this
he's seen
space.
as assertive. He's seen as he knows what he wants. You do the very same thing. I know the line that I can toe but you can get the gravitas, you can get what I'm trying to say in my email. It'll be very passionate.
Got you.
Yeah.
And you know what? There's a lesson here for everyone, Mapalo, in as much as it does go back to that, male, female dynamic. Number one, we as females also need to do our part to actually, speak up where we can, and where you can't speak up for yourself.
I completely believe in that.
Yeah, have the necessary buffers in place to actually manage that procedure for you. And buffers can not only just be a person who's going to follow up, but even the processes and procedures beforehand. Contracts, if we didn't sign a contract, I'm not there.
Yeah.
And it's actually happened before. It's been a great security measure for me where certain people have had a fake account made about me on Instagram, on WhatsApp. And it actually happened. This guy called me once like, hey, Gook, so we're seeing you on Wednesday. Here's the brief. I was like, whoa. When was this concluded? No, I DM'd you stuff. So for me,
also, like,
we do not do business on DM or what. If it's not in a formal email, if you haven't followed through with the booking process, with the booking form where we liaise. Briefing session.
Where was the briefing session?
And most importantly, a signed contract that has the payment conditions that we agreed to. A quote and an invoice that you received and accepted. And also your terms and conditions. Exactly. Those are things that make it important for people to actually take you more seriously, and to avoid the conflict where you're taking a booking on WhatsApp, you're taking a DM here, calls here. Like, run yourself as a business, guys. As difficult as it is, as complex as it does become, have those procedures in place to actually take yourself seriously, and also follow up with it. Even if it means in the briefing that you have to be the person to remind client that, by the way, I understand that there's a hiccup with the deposit or with 1, 2, 3 and the other. Discuss that and liaise on it. And I also realize, because I've also worked with a lot of male colleagues who charge top dollar. And when I say top dollar, it's like...
You can pay off like
stuff. For what they do.
I know.
You also recognize, again, when you know the value you bring to the table, you don't need to fight, And that's also a lesson that I've slowly learned with a lot of my clients. But take yourself seriously, have the procedures in place, and know the value that you bring to the table, and leverage on that negotiating power. Because once you enter the negotiation table, knowing or fearing that you're on the losing end,
you will be on the losing end.
Exactly.
Okay, the last thing. How important is it to read through contracts?
Very. And not just contracts that clients give you, Mapalo, but you yourself should also, because you're an entity, because you're a business, have your own contract. So for me, that's actually how I confirm bookings. Unless you've read through my contract, understand what we're looking to deliver and what the outcomes are, then there is no final booking. Hence, you can DM all you want, but unless that paperwork is followed through with, nothing's going to happen. But reading through contracts is incredibly important, Mapalo, for everyone in every capacity, really. Whether you're taking out insurance for your cell phone or life insurance, buying a car, securing the next work project with a major client. Very critical, because there's always terms and conditions. And if anything the pandemic taught us, guys, is just to, dot your I's and cross your T's, because everyone became very familiar with the phrase force majeure during the pandemic, where we were getting calls that
to deliver.
Exactly. Sometimes you might still have to deliver, or sometimes clients says, well, we couldn't do this, so we can't pay you as much as we might have had a commitment. And it's only when you find that you're also able to build formidable relationships with clients, right? Especially those who you can go back to and say, hold on, there's this particular term or condition here that I don't like, or that I don't agree with, and that I'm uncomfortable with. Ensure that you afford yourself the opportunity to sit opposite someone within that capacity to actually discuss what those issues are, because a back and forth as well via email might not prove to be very fruitful. Signing anything under duress never always works out well, but make sure that you do afford yourself the opportunity just to say, I've read through this, help me understand it better. Even if you don't understand, there's no such thing as a stupid question. We say it all the time. But you're right, and that's also where you can solicit the support of someone who is an external party or consultant, as your own legal representative to say, run through this, what my needs and my requirements are. If there's anything that you think I should be worried about, then help me actually work through this. So I think that is critical, and so much more so, Mapalo, because I think another financial aspect we tend to forget about the space that we work in is sometimes the necessary covers. And I say cover now, this is, you can tell that we've been in the school for a long time. Because life happens,
Yeah,
you
it
know. I
does.
could have made
It
this
does.
commitment to be here today, but if I was involved in an accident driving
Then what?
here,
Yeah.
then what? You know, if there was a financial consideration that needed to be
Or
paid.
you lose your voice and you need to speak.
Right.
And they've paid you the 50%.
Exactly.
How about that?
So those are other things
Yeah.
that, you know, when you are transitioning from and I think that's very important that we underscore here today. It's all good and well to start off as a freelancer, side hustler, but if you really want to grow something formidable and move away from constantly moving from gig to gig,
Chasing.
because what you call things also matters.
Yeah.
Then you need to transition and you need to, you know, build a business out of it. That you also need to be cognizant of the risks that is associated with your work. So, you know, those are things that I think sit top of mind for me when it comes to building a business. That, you know, if the voice goes and I can't pay the bond or buy another property or whatever else it is, then I need to make sure that there's some additional financial buffer that's in place. And when you start taking yourself and your business and your work that seriously, guys, you know, even the partners that you attract to actually help you walk that journey have a greater appreciation for what it is that you're doing, because it's not just you know.
Well, I'm just here trying.
No,
no, we're not trying. We're doing.
Exactly.
We are doing. We have systems in place. Yes.
And we're changing the status quo for the careers that we want to have.
For me, just the last one on contracts. It is so important. Don't just look at how much they're paying you. You need to look at, especially in our industry where you have to take a look at, what's that? Where you can't work with other companies. What's the name? Restraint of trade. Yes. Some people put 6 months. I'm like, so for 6 months, you do not want my family to eat.
Mapalo, that's a whole nother podcast.
That's a whole other podcast altogether.
It's definitely a whole other podcast. And I think it might happen. So I've been very fortunate again that sometimes the clients that I work with understand that I am not an ambassador of any particular brand. And I've been lucky that I haven't been put in that particular space, especially within the financial services environment.
You know how they are. We love you though.
We love you. Please run a title of all the companies you've ever. I'm teasing.
We love you all.
We love you. And I think that's the appreciation as well, because they understand that we've put in the work, we've put in the effort to actually be forthright authorities within our own space, right? Not because we might be aligned with any of the different colors that you might see within the financial services realm. But you're very right. When it does come to restraint of trade, those are also conversations that we need to have as well with corporates to fully understand, okay, by limiting, you know, this particular opportunity for me to work with other clients, what does it mean for you and I?
The compensation.
Exactly. Exclusivity, compensation, the financial reward. And I do think that, again, because this is a space that is being created, you know, not only by the major clients themselves, but agencies that work as intermediaries and ourselves as creators and leaders and directors of conversation. There's been a lot of back and forth, and some people get it right in certain spaces,
and some completely get it wrong.
But it's something that we need to talk about. But I definitely think it's an avenue that does need to be expressed, because, sorry, top of mind, it just actually crossed my mind. Have you ever noticed how there's almost a different approach, specifically when it comes to athletes or individuals who are, I guess, in non-formal structures of employment? Think about athletes. Someone like Sia Kodisi, for example, you know, is sponsored by a financial services institution, a vehicle company, a watch brand, a healthcare brand, a food brand, an athleisure brand, you know, and that's one person who's able to utilize his personal brand in that particular way, right? Even though his primary focus is actually on sport. But for you and maybe myself, who, you know, are individuals who work within the different realms that they work in as much as we interact with all these clients, we are not necessarily restricted to having one sponsor in all the different spaces to actually compensate for that shortfall. So perhaps that's a model that we need to start looking at, that, okay, Mapalo, let's actually get a financial services company to work with you, and an automobile manufacturer, you know, and a hair care product. Hint, wink, wink. Glam bar.
The Glam bar _ SA on Instagram.
Exactly. And a whole other, you know, myriad of factors that actually speak to who you are. So that if you do implement that restraint of trade, it's cool. Because
can still
if I'm not getting banking money, I'm getting vehicle money. If I'm not getting vehicle money, I'm getting hair money. If I'm not getting hair money, you know, I'm getting another agency's money. So those are the kind of models I think that we still need to kind of
don't you feel like, okay,
break down
maybe
and discuss.
This is again a conversation that we can have. But I feel like it's easier if you are more of a lifestyle person to do car What? Don't you ever feel...
But you did calm,
I did
Mapalo.
calm. Ford Ranger, Wild Track. Thank
Right?
you. Yeah. That was a very good partnership. Having a car for 6 months, it was really lovely. And I had all these experiences with them. Went to the Eastern Cape.
Wow.
Went to all these different places. It was really amazing. I enjoyed it. Also,
I'm available.
I mean, look at her.
But
look at her.
You mentioned a valid point that, okay, maybe it's better for people who are in lifestyle, but I disagree, right? Because in as much as we know you to be the, personal financial coach, go-to individual that, if you want to get your money right, you go to Mapalo. Mapalo is a whole person.
Yeah.
You just started this conversation by saying you're a mom, you're a wife, you're a sister, you're a friend. And I think even in my space, in as much as, I've restricted how much of myself that I share with the world.
Something that we were talking about. She has so much to offer.
Yeah, which we'll work on.
Yeah.
But you're right, you are a whole individual and you're a whole person. So in as much as you lead the conversation primarily focusing
around personal finance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But there's more to you. So I do think there's a conversation to be had there. So agencies,
hello.
You know
Hi.
who to call. We're available. We come as a pack too.
See, tag team. Gugu, we can have a conversation for hours and hours and
man,
hours.
is this the end?
This is the
No.
end. Unfortunately, this is the end. But I think people really grasped who you are, the essence of who you are. Just a wonderful, amazing person,
Thank you.
very smart person as well.
Thank you.
And it's just been lovely watching you navigate this space and just become Gugu.
Thank you. Oh man, guys, I don't think you understand like the level of appreciation and respect I have for Mapalo. It's been amazing watching your journey and you transition and really own and occupy the space fully. And I think the fact that we, so often people always say, oh, women tear each other down, women are each other's worst enemies, but it's been so refreshing to see how this partnership, this growth, this professional dynamic, this sisterhood, this friendship has been able to evolve as it has over the years. So thank you so much. And you guys don't know, she's got a heart of gold. She's a sharpshooter, but heart of gold.
Sometimes people just know the sharpshooter, but if you're in my personal space, you'd know. You'd know. Yeah. I love you, Gugu. And I cannot wait to see what the next couple of years, but I know it's just wonderful stuff. So thank you so much for being here.
I'm a hugger. Thank you so much, Mapalo.
Guys, thank you so much for watching. Please do go follow her on Instagram. Please.
The right account, guys. If I dare step into your DMs asking you for money, just know that
it is not her. It is not her. That's a lie. And actually, I was saying this. I saw another account also impersonating me and it had about 8,000 followers. I said, you know what? At this point, you guys want to be scammed.
Yeah.
No ways. There is no way. You know my tone. You know how I speak. You know I don't do forex trading. Yet here you are letting people in your No.
Exactly.
No.
Exactly.
Don't do that.
Guys.
All right. So go follow her on the right account. I'll leave it
at
below.
Yes, ma'am.
At Gugulethu Mfuphi, and I'll leave the link there to the right one. And where else? If you want to catch her on radio doing her thing, Kaya Biz.
Yes, ma'am. 6 to 8 o'clock, Monday to Thursday.
Yep.
On Kaya 959.
There we go. There's the radio voice.
Right?
Thank you so much, Tribe. Thank you for watching. See you soon.